Welcome to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I'm Dr. April Moreno, autoimmune wellness researcher and professional helping women around the world to live their best possible lives despite the autoimmune condition. Listen in as we speak on various topics about the autoimmune journey and interview amazing and inspiring women who are living and thriving despite their autoimmune condition. Let's get started. Hello, Sisterhood. Hope all's going well. I'm Dr. April Moreno. As you know, happy spring. It's my favorite time of the year. It feels fantastic. I just love the spring. I love all the new energy that's out there, the new ideas and the new inspiration. The world is new again. Today, I wanted to talk to you about an article that just came out. And I haven't actually read it yet, but I wanted to share this with you all. I think there's a way to share the screen here. So, every so often we do some article breakdown in this group. And the article that we're going to talk about today is about the concept of flourishing. It's kind of a funny word, I think, flourishing, but this article just came out in the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, and I just wanted to take a look at it. I just pretty much downloaded it today, and I wanted to go through it. And so I figured it might as well be a good time for article breakdown, and we can read through it together. So like I say, I have not read it yet, but I did skim through maybe, a couple paragraphs, and I do know that it is about the concept and the topic of the idea of flourishing. So, there's the idea of thriving these days. You hear it on commercials, like some healthcare clinics talking a lot about thriving. So that's a great idea, right? But then also there's the topic of flourishing, which is an article that just came out. And so let's go into that. What is flourishing? It just stood out to me just because, we talk about limitless living in this series of episodes. We talk about limitless living, and we talk about the importance of quality of life, self-efficacy, the power of the mind to begin to catalyze our healing and the autoimmune journey. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. Let me go ahead and prepare to share that screen with you all. Oh, come on. 1 second. All right, we're going to share this screen. All right, so here, this is an article again from the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA Network, and it's about reimagining health and flourishing. So it's about the medical model of the clinician practice and how they monitor patients with a very reactive, damage control perspective of adverse outcomes. They assess patients, for example, for high blood pressure, glucose, cancer recurrence, things like that. Clinicians may equate absence of disease with health, okay? So without reading further on, I can already tell you that health is a little more than the absence of disease, okay? The absence of disease is one aspect of health, but that's not enough, And so let's get into this a bit more. Public health officials, meanwhile, we track rates and leading causes of mortality, morbidity, and risk factors. Again, mortality is rates of reports of death. Morbidity is living with disease or living, without good health. So you're living with living with disease, morbidity, or risk factors like tobacco, obesity, and drug overdose. These are a deficit framework to health. I love this language, you guys. This is so what this group is about. We're not about reactive behaviors of medicine. We are not about the simple absence of disease. And we are not going to think about, wellness from a deficit framework of health. Okay, so it's like, how insane would it be? Oh, I'm healthy because today I am cancer-free, Parkinson's-free. I am, and you just keep listing these diseases over and over and being free of them and equating that with health, the madness. So So that's like a deficit framework to health. These approaches, while they can be necessary and valuable, they do fall short of capturing what is most important to people in their daily lives. Okay, patients not only care about physical health, but they also really care about being happy, having meaning and purpose, being a good person, and having fulfilling relationships. So all of that is super important, and that's what I talk about in the in this work as an integrative wellness professional, integrative autoimmune wellness professional. It's about having meaning and purpose, uh, and fulfilling relationships, being part of a strong, inspiring community. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Okay, so these measurements in research must better capture these outcomes that people consider central components of well-being. So in this article, they're introducing this concept of flourishing, and they have developed some measures for flourishing. So we'll go into that a bit. Let's see here. Anything more that I want to say here? Clinicians can consider a proliferation of holistic measures of well-being from medicine, psychology, econ, sociology, and government. Yes. Yeah, let's stop here. To me, this is obvious. These guys are all from the schools of public health. I love public health more and more each day because we do look at these broader picture, systemic, broader factors of what health means. And so that's public health for you. We look at well-being. We look at social determinants of health. And let's see here. Okay, so measurements for life satisfaction can sometimes reflect whether patients receive the care that they wanted, but they don't really talk about well-being so much. Yeah, social isolation, opioid addiction. Yeah, that's kind of what data often does in measuring patients' experience or patient quality of life. But we don't really talk a whole lot about well-being. These metrics do not fully capture what people regard to as well-being. Okay, so they talk about the term flourishing, used for thousands of years, literally meaning to grow or to prosper, represents a powerful way to view health in its fullest sense. Okay, okay, so it's been discussed by Seligman in positive psychology, and okay, psychological well-being. So they do use that term flourishing in psychology. Okay, let's see what else I can talk to you about here. The flourishing index that they identify in this article divides universally desired factors contributing to flourishing into 6 key domains. These are happiness and life satisfaction, physical and mental health, meaning and purpose, character and virtue, close social relationships, and financial and material security. Okay, so in contrast to other measures that are not comprehensive, flourishing, this index addresses 5 universally desired domains that constitute ends, as well as a 6th, financial and material security, that constitute a critical means to secure them. So yeah, I love this. And so much of this is already tied to the concept of the different dimensions of wellness that we talk about in integrative wellness, right? So, we have like, it can go anywhere from like 5 to 7 to 9 different dimensions, even 4. The smallest would be like, for me, it's like spiritual, it's mental, it's physical, and it's mental, physical, spiritual, and social, I believe. Yeah. So there's 4 dimensions that I tend to often look at: mind, body, environment, and spirit. Those are the 4. And but then we can actually broaden it even further into these 10 dimensions of wellness, from like a lot of what they mentioned, from like physical health, mental health, financial wellness. 10 dimensions of wellness: financial, spiritual, dental, medical, nutritional, occupational, and it just keeps going. So there are all these different aspects, different ways to identify what wellness looks like. So I love this. So the Flourishing Index even identified financial and material security. This is not really a field of discussion you're going to hear too often from MDs, right? Okay, wait, one of these guys is an MD. That's pretty cool. But yeah, definitely it's a public health perspective, and I love it. Let's see here. Flourishing in clinical care. So yeah, they're talking about all these different examples. Many of these decisions relate not just to health or happiness, but also more broadly to relationships, meaning, and purpose. Isn't that beautiful? Relationships, meaning, and purpose. Okay, so then flourishing measure and questions. So these are the six different domains of flourishing that this article is looking at. I love this. So yeah, these are questions that I would love for my physician to ask me every time I went to see them, right? Yeah, they don't really get into my friendships and relationships and things like that. But, you know, this is totally important, but I guess it's coming from this psychology field, this positive psychiatry field. So the questions of flourishing may be central to patient care. Interest has expanded in positive psychiatry to promote positive mental health outcomes as well as psychological characteristics and activities that boost resilience to mental disorders. Isn't that beautiful? And so addressing mental illness can promote relationships, purpose, or character. Moreover, these aspects of flourishing, if left unaddressed, can exacerbate mental illness. Okay, so flourishing at the population level, this is the application of positive psychology into public health. Okay, so it also matters at the population level. So public health is often population health. They're not exactly the same because population can be your patient population. Public health is still even more broader. It's even external, environmental. Population can often tend to just be your patient population within a clinic, within a particular hospital setting. But it does also matter at the population level and can be enhanced. Many do-it-yourself positive psychology interventions shown to improve aspects of flourishing can be implemented by people on their own. Yes, people on their own. Self-efficacy. And also have potential for widespread dissemination at low cost. Broad dissemination of such interventions could substantially influence population flourishing. So I love where this is going, this topic of population health, population flourishing. Flourishing even bigger than the concept of health again. And let's see here. While these concerns extend beyond medicine, yes, further policy efforts could promote a broader array of factors that enhance population flourishing. Okay. Research is already examining ways that flourishing measures might be used, that the flourishing measure might be used to assess and improve employee well-being. Okay. Can also be relevant at the national level in driving priority setting goals and implementation strategies. Government policymakers recognize that using gross domestic product is grossly inadequate, and have started looking at happiness. And Bhutan, I knew it was going to hit here, the gross national happiness measure that's done in Bhutan. They became the first country to establish those goals, those measurements for happiness. So instead of just GDP, they do gross national happiness, okay, GNH. And then there was a World Happiness Report that was recently, 2011, that is now done annually. I believe it's like Finland right now, the top. The concept, in conclusion, the concept of flourishing has the potential to capture health more broadly than existing wellness measures for patients and populations. Populations, again, it's a difficult and vague term. We talk about population in terms of like the geographic population of, for example, the United States or a specific country. But then when we're talking about population health, again, it can be all the way just narrowed all the way down to just your patient population within a clinic. Okay, so, but here it looks like they want to talk about population geographically, which I prefer because I'm a public health person. Asking questions related to flourishing can inform and refine many complex trade-offs for patients facing treatment decisions. The concept can potentially guide clinicians in assessing their own personal well-being as well as delivering better patient-centered care. At the population level too, attention to flourishing may represent a more useful way to assess or address policy and societal goals than current options. Such an approach could open a national conversation that reframes and reimagines traditional concepts of health. So yeah, I just really wanted to share this article with you all because I love the concept of flourishing. It's not something I've heard too often, and positive psychology is not a background that I've really been part of, not at all, actually. But most definitely, public health is is a field that I've been part of, and so when I saw this concept of flourishing and health in the Journal of Medicine, the American Medical Association, it just jumped out at me, and I just had to share it with you guys because of the fact that we're looking at health not only health no longer only as the absence of disease. We're looking at it from this perspective of flourishing, and we're applying it into the population health space. And again, population health is a term that you can narrow down to as small as your clinic, the patients that you serve, or it could be the entire a specific geographic region. It can be all of a specific country. It can be the world. And then I love the way they kind of ended this article with the topic of Bhutan, gross national happiness, and the international happiness index, the national world happiness report. I love that. And so, how does this apply to us here? Definitely. Again, I'm kind of putting my head over the article. I still have it here on the screen. But, when we talk about autoimmune wellness, again, this is something that's still totally under-researched, underexplored, and almost non-existent in the public health space, okay? We know that there's an epidemic out there. We know that huge percentages of people in the country and around the world are experiencing one of hundreds of different autoimmune conditions, but we're not talking about it yet. But anyways, taking that a step out there even further, we talk about flourishing, right? The idea of thriving, flourishing, and happiness. These are very important factors to consider when we want to think about our overall quality of life. Okay, so the work that I do is not specifically focused on just like maintaining your health. That's a foundational issue. That's like number one, fighting the fire, most definitely literally fighting the fire of autoimmune disease, right? But then also beginning to understand I haven't been really into psychology or positive psychology so much, but delving into cognitive psychology a bit these days. But that's the next step, getting your perspective and your mindset ready for healing, and beginning to kind of not settle into a new normal, but actually proactively co-create your new normal. And that new normal is going to be something of your design, okay? Whether it's not a good one or it's a great one, you have a role, okay? Even inaction is a decision, right? So, making that proactive step to live your fullest life, meeting your dreams, your desires, your goals with this one life that we have been given is really important. And so I love, again, the topic of happiness and social support that was mentioned in here as well. Positive psychiatry, and then positive psychology, and then again, the concepts of flourishing and happiness are super important components to us living very well despite the autoimmune experience. He's getting a back scratch, so he's just really happy that everybody is here with him, my puppy. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to share with you today. It's out there. It's in the American Medical Association Journal. It just came out April 1st. And I love it. I love the fact that we are starting to have these conversations about not only living with an absence of disease. Again, we are living, thriving, and flourishing. And we are going to live lives with, our own self-designed or co-created sense of happiness and fulfillment. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. That article, again, just jumped out at me, and it was something I believed would be really important to share with my group. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions about it, I believe I'm going to go ahead and share it with you all in my group so you can read it for yourself. It's just something really beautiful to see that in the clinical community, they're starting to have these discussions. And I say starting to, but again, this positive psychology, psychiatry concept of flourishing has been out for quite some time. But just to have it be part of the regular narrative out there is a beautiful step, and I fully support it. All right, well, have a good day. Thank you for listening to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. If you like what you heard, come and follow us and subscribe on iTunes or give us a review. Also, you can join us on the Facebook group, The Sisterhood of Limitless Living, or come visit me on my website, aprilmorenophd.com. Take care.